Highnesses and Your Excellencies, to all of my brothers and sisters in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, my respects and appreciation for being allowed the honor to speak to you about the situation our world finds itself in. So let's see if this works. I'd like to start by talking about our small blue dot that we all inhabit, our common spaceship of humanity. Our Earth is spinning on its axis as we sit in this room at 1,670 kilometers per hour. We're spinning. And we're orbiting the sun on our spaceship, on our small blue dot, at 67,000 kilometers per hour. That means that every second we're moving 30 kilometers as we orbit our sun. And our solar system is orbiting in its own galaxy at 490,000 miles per hour, or 220 kilometers per second. And so all of humanity is living on this tiny, small blue dot. And to quote Carl Sagan, this is our home, this is us. On this small blue dot is everyone we love, everyone we know, everyone we ever heard of, every human being who ever was, or who have lived their lives. And so there's only one God. We all come from that same one God, and we all face common problems in humanity. And I believe firmly in my heart that the young Saudi generation is in a position to do a huge amount of good for the world. And hence I'm honored and excited to be here and address you about the silly little subject of mining, which is a tiny fraction of what we do, but the most basic of all industries. So the most interesting metal we have in this world is copper metal. As a species, to build this auditorium and to build the city of Riyadh and to build the city of New York and our modern global economy, as we evolved over hundreds of thousands of years, we have mined 700,000 metric tons of copper. So just to give you an idea how big that is, let's take a look at the oil and gas industry. The greatest discovery, mineral discovery that has ever occurred on this small blue dot of a spaceship is the discovery of the Ghawar oil field in eastern Saudi Arabia in your Friedland Basin. It was found by a small American oil company, quite small, you could call it a junior, working in conjunction with King Abdulaziz, and that was the largest discovery of a mineral asset, the largest discovery of a mineral asset of any kind on this small blue dot. So if you look at the scale of the oil industry, which has given us all modern society, all food, all education, all buildings, all hospitals have depended on the energy from hydrocarbon, and we will continue to depend on that energy from hydrocarbon for a long time. And even an electric car is 25% hydrocarbon by weight for the plastics involved in making it lighter. But the problem is that if we are to reduce the consumption of oil, we're looking at those magic metals, and that block of copper I showed you is up there in the upper right-hand side. So you have the idea of the copper industry compared to oil. The mining industry is tiny, tiny, tiny compared to the oil and gas industry. And so we think it's highly strategic for Saudi Arabia to lead the reinvention of mining, because we don't mine in order to make money. We mine as a means to an end. And what is that end? Why do we go mining? We mine because it is the most basic of industries in human development. In fact, everything we do, we either grow it agriculturally or we mine it. And yes, the development of Ghawar is mining. The development of oil and gas is mining. The oil well that finds that is a mine. It's something given to us by Allah that we can extract at a profit as a business. But mining itself is in the process of being reinvented. We are now talking about making everything electric. We don't know to what degree this can actually be achieved. Can we really have electric motorcycles and electric airplanes and electric taxis and electric microwave ovens and the cloud and the broadband? It's all electric, ladies and gentlemen. When you do a Google search, you're using a lot of electrical energy. It's not free. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the Ivanhoe Group of companies is addressing this issue. And then I'd like to put it into context of this great country with so much unexplored mineral potential. Renewable energy is absurdly energy intensive. When people talk about using wind power, or they talk about using solar power, you're using between 7 and 37 times more copper than any per unit of electrical energy generated. So wind farms, very copper intensive. Solar power, very copper intensive. And so behind us, Allah has only given us one periodic table in the known universe. And there are 8 or 9 metals in that periodic table that we must rely on if we are to make any progress on the reduction of hydrocarbon and making a better world. And hydrocarbon is not a bad thing. Hydrocarbon has brought us to the current state of human civilization. So every global turbine fleet, we need another 5 million tons of copper by 2028. In industrialization, 2028 is tomorrow morning. Vision 2030 is tomorrow morning in the history of our species. There'll be none of these giant wind farms without copper metal. Copper is the electric vehicle story. It depends on copper completely. In 2030, we'll have at least 20 million EV charging points globally. We'll need a 250% increase in current copper consumption just to do that. And by 2040, we'll need 4 million tons a year just for passenger vehicles. But of course, an electric car doesn't change anything. It's all, how do we generate electrical energy? How do we transmit electrical energy to even think about having electric cars? When I grew up, a Ford Mustang, and I actually saw a Ford Mustang in Alula when I was there a few days ago. I was surprised. But when I grew up, that car used about 20 kilograms of copper per car. And then our Japanese friends at Toyota invented the hybrid automobile that used 40 kilograms of copper per car. And if you build a Lucid car or you build a Tesla, you're using at least 100 kilograms of copper per car. You can see you're already up 500% per car. And now we're talking about electric trucks. And an electric truck will need a truckload of copper. So the larger the object that you want to electrify, the more copper you need until you try to go to generating the power in that larger object with hydrogen. But a hydrogen-powered car or truck is also electric, and we'll come to the hydrogen economy soon. So General Motors is going to spend $20 billion on EV production, $20 billion. Mary Barra says we need millions of EVs on the road to make a meaningful impact towards building a zero-emission world. That's crazy. How do you reduce global warming by making more cars? There's 7, 8, 9 billion people scheduled to be on this planet. If everybody has a car, how much global warming gas do we create to even make those cars, to even build those cars? How is the electrical energy generated? How is it transmitted? So I'm talking about an analysis from the cradle to the grave. We have to look at the whole cycle of what we are doing here as a species on our small spaceship hurtling through Earth. Volkswagen is saying that they're going to be the world's largest EV manufacturer in 6 short years, 22 million EVs a year. They claim they're going to be the biggest. Mercedes has now broken the 1,000-kilometer range barrier on their electric car. I've had the privilege to speak to the board of Mercedes-Benz and to Ola, the CEO. That's a beautiful car. All of your kids will want one of those cars. They're amazing. They're fantastic, but we have to think about what it takes to even begin to realize that vision. Tesla expects a global shortage of battery raw materials in nickel and copper. And today, nickel is already trading at a 9-year high, and the copper price is exploding. It's above $10,000 a ton, and we haven't even begun. We haven't even started to electrify the world economy. Out of 280 million cars in the United States of America, only 1 million are electric cars. And even an electric car is a fraud if 30 or 40% of the electrical energy in the United States is generated burning coal. So we have to look at the whole system, and I believe that the young people of Saudi Arabia have a critical and bright future in the whole system of maintaining, first, energy security for the world, because energy security is number one. The Europeans didn't get much wind this winter for their wind farms. And silly Angela Merkel shut down her nuclear power plants. So this winter, the Europeans are looking at freezing in the dark. The security of the energy provided by the kingdom underpins the entire world economy. And so when it becomes fashionable for institutional investors not to invest in hydrocarbon, you're obviously going to have higher hydrocarbon prices. And with higher hydrocarbon prices, the role of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in the energy transformation becomes even more critical and even more central. You know, if you go to Los Angeles now, you want to be careful because some of the police cars are made by Tesla, and they go 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. They will catch you. I don't know if I'd want to give one of my grandson a car like this because it pushes your eyeballs into the back of your head. It accelerates so fast. An electric car is fantastic. It has unparalleled torque. Nothing matches the torque of an electric motor. And the electric motor can last 1,000 miles. But again, we have to look cradle to grave. We have to look womb to tomb. We have to look at the whole system and see how we can work together on this pale blue dot. So just for the electrification of the automobile, which is trivial, it's a small subset of what we need to do, we're going to have to use a 10-fold increase in copper metal. And if we don't have that copper metal, we're back to having conventional hydrocarbon driving our cars. And then the next frontier, of course, are the aircraft. In Dubai, for example, we're going to have vertical takeoff taxis. And these are all running on electric motors, but they're not really electric. They have to be charged with electrical energy generated somehow.